So, you are going into I think it's the ICF World Championships, is it, in Nottingham?
Been cancelled this year.
Oh, dearie me. Okay, right. So, next year then?
Uh-huh.
What does that entail for you? What are you doing right now to prepare?
So, at the moment, we're just ending what is a lockdown training stint, and then hopefully we'll be back on the white water and training in Nottingham. We've got an extra year in the World's feature. It's the best place to train. So
yeah. So when you're training, what do you do? Do you just sort of take laps around is it a course, or how does it work?
No, so freestyle kayaking is, for competitions, you get 45 seconds in a set feature where you have to do as many like tricks, so flips and manoeuvres that are on a score sheet, and you have to execute them perfectly to score.
So what's your favourite trick?
Oh, a lunar loop.
What? What does that mean?
It's a bit like a stern rotation where the nose goes down again and then you link it to a front flip. It's very cool.
Right, okay. It sounds it. I don't really know what that means, but so does that score a lot of points? What scores a lot of points? Because I personally, I went for a phase, so don't judge me. I went through a phase of watching slope style mountain biking.
Yeah.
And then you sort of get more points, or like more points for doing tricks that are like reversed or not your natural way of rotating. Is there something like that where you get more points for doing a certain style of trick, or like sort of linking tricks in?
So there's a full like score sheet that has tricks from basic tricks that you stay upright to the more complicated one where you change direction multiple times. And obviously those tricks take a bit longer and riskier, but you can do them either direction.
Yeah. So it's just sort of like, do you get points for landing upright, etc.? Like,
so to score a trick, you have to stay in the feature. If you flush, you get 0 points for that trick.
So what's flushing?
A flush is when you just get kicked back up, like, off the wave, and you're no longer in the feature.
Okay. So it's essentially like sort of just getting as much in as you can in the run.
Yeah.
So how do you plan your runs? Do you know, do you watch your competitors and then plan your run around what they're going to do, or do you just go with the flow?
I think the best strategy is to understand yourself the best and know what tricks you can do, but you have to be aware of what your competitors do so that you can do what they do and make sure you stick something else at the end so that you beat them. Yeah.
So what's the best sort of trick to do that will get you the most points, or what's the worst as well, actually?
So like the most basic trick is called a shove it, and it's basically half a spin. So that's, you stay upright and you only do half a spin, and it scores nothing, about 5 points.
All right, okay. So what's a good score sort of on the scoreboard? What would you be looking to get?
So at the moment it's all about women breaking the 1,000 point barrier. The men typically get scores within about 1,700, and until recently women haven't been getting over that barrier. So over 1,000. Over
1,000, okay. So that's quite high, actually. It's not ranked out of 100 or maybe 10 or something like that. So would you be looking to sort of, say you're halfway through a run, do you know how many points you've got? Or
I think the more you do it, you can understand what you've scored from feel, but you're not always accurate. But you go in with a competition ride, so you know that my ride might score 1,400. I lost one move, so maybe I'm at 1,200. And then you've got to wait for the judges to see if they get it.
Okay, so it's all revealed to you afterwards. And then they just sort of, do they hold up like a board, or how does it work?
Normally they have it on like a jumbotron. At the last World Championships they had, I think it's called live scoring, where it, as it all gets keyed in by the judges, it goes up and down and it builds tension in the audience or something.
Right, that sounds really scary, I'm not gonna lie.
It's a bit stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. So do you have like a teammate, or is it just you that goes into it representing GB?
So we have a full GB team, which is one of the strongest freestyle kayaking teams in the world.
Yeah.
And most of us are based around Nottingham and train together there.
So do you go in, is it like a team championship there, or a tournament for teams where the individual points get added up and then...
So at every World Championships there is a team trophy which is done off medals.
Yeah.
So basically the team that does the best with medals will take the win.
Do they get like a big trophy then, or...?
That's like a big trophy.
Ah.
And a lot of pride.
A lot of pride?
Yeah.
Is it bragging right?
I think so. Team GB won in 2017.
Oh, really?
Mm.
And then it's sort of been... Last year, was there a winner, or...?
No, so we were supposed to have... so we were supposed to have the World Championships this year, but that'll be moved to next year, 2022. So we haven't had a World Championship since 2019 now.
Ah, right. So is sort of like going forward in freestyle kayaking, where do you look to be in like the future?
I think my personal mission is to one, see how good I can get, and two, to really push the lady standard. Like, I want to be the same standard as the men, and I don't see any reason why I can't be. So that's my mission, I think.
How do you plan on doing that?
Lots of training, making sure I paddle with the men, and surround yourself with the right people, I think.
Is the training like... How does the training work? How do you get into the sport? You know, how did you get introduced to it?
So I joined a local canoe club when I was about 11, which had pool sessions, and you go and you learn how to do kind of recreational kayaking. And then I joined another club, and freestyle is quite niche within kayaking, so generally everyone starts in a swimming pool and then picks a discipline they like. But I'm super lucky that my dad actually used to be quite a good kayaker when he was younger, and then once I started, he got back into it, and I had someone to paddle with when I was little.
So did he train you all the way up until you had joined that club, or...?
No, so that club was... I had used the coaches there. I don't think my dad's ever really trained me. He's just driven me everywhere.
Yeah. Taxi.
Yeah.
So when you started in the club, how did you go up from there? Were you scouted? How does the sort of the system work getting picked for Team GB?
So to actually get on the GB team, you have to compete at a selections event. And anyone could do that, but you should try and be at a reasonable standard.
Yeah.
But I spent years kind of progressing as a young junior, and then when I was confident enough and I felt ready, I went to a selections event, and then you get to know the right people.
Do you think you've gotten, on a scale of sort of 1 to 10, how much better do you think you've gotten since that selection process?
Well, you have to get reselected every year. But I was on team for the first time when I was 14. So just from growing up, I've obviously got way better.
How did you deal with the pressure at the age of 14 representing Great Britain?
I think I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's nice. Even when I put on my GB tracksuit today, I feel proud.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it because it's fun.
Do you think that the pressure drives you, and that's sort of what gives you that force and that momentum to want to be the best?
Maybe. I never really see it as pressure, more that I like pushing myself, and I don't really care what other people think of me and my skills.
Yeah.
If I'm happy, I'm happy.
You just keep going and drive yourself. Do you think that it's good to compare yourself to sort of like the best ever, you know, in freestyle kayaking generally? Do you look up to them and then study how they would have done it, or...?
I think, you've got to look at different competitors, pick what you like about them, understand what you do differently, and then how you plan to get even better.
Yeah. Would you say you have your own style?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. How would you describe... Do you have like an idol, or...?
So my biggest idol within freestyle is Claire O'Hara, who's the most successful female woman. She's British, but she's lovely, and she coached me a lot when I was little. Ah,
right. That's really good that she's your sort of like role model, and you want to like following her footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
Were you coached by her as a result of being in Team GB, or how did you come to be connected with her?
Well, luckily we share the same coach,
Right.
who is a GB coach but also has his own team of athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to know her well through our mutual coach, and therefore she gave me a lot of time and was very giving to me.
Yeah. What do you think's the most challenging event in freestyle kayaking? What event? Because it's not sort of it's the same, sort of style of event each time.
Mm-hmm.
But which one draws in the most competition for you?
It would definitely be the World Championships. That's because it's not an Olympic sport. That is the top tier competition.
Yeah.
But also every competition we do, the feature that we compete in is completely different. So you might be able to do a trick in one feature but not in the other. So you need to make sure you're really adaptable and good at what you do.
So what's the difference between the features and stuff?
It can be, so to start with you have a hole and a wave. So a hole is recirculating, and the wave can be big and green and you do big tricks like a surfer would. But they can also vary so much, just size, maybe tricks go easier one way than the other, depth. There's a lot of contributing factors.
Is it held in Nottingham each year? Or?
No, so every year the World Championships is somewhere different. So it's quite special, it's in Nottingham.
Oh, right, okay. So have you ever represented Team GB outside of the UK?
Yeah, so I've been competing internationally since I was 14. So I've competed in Germany, Slovakia, Argentina, Spain, all over.
So what was your favourite place then to be?
I think Argentina was the most special for me. It was a big trip and I got the result I wanted. So it was
Did you win?
I won.
Oh wow! What year was that?
2017.
Ah, okay. So you contributed to that whole Team GB.
Yeah.
Sort of.
We did so well. Our senior and junior team was so strong.
Yeah.
It was nice to be part of such a good team.
Do you travel with family at all, or does anyone come with you?
Yeah, so I normally travel with my dad or one of my really close friends. But I'm at that age where I'm starting to be a bit more independent. However, I've done everything with my dad since day one.
And he's sort of motivated you?
No, I guess so. He's put up with my drama before competition and I've put up with him being annoying. But we're very close and I think that bond is incredible, really.
That's sort of the best way of doing it, because a lot of people, they sort of seem very flustered being away from home, especially so far away in Argentina. There's not really much you can do there, really.
No.
Do you think that it would have happened any differently if you hadn't have had family with you, or?
I like the home comforts. For me at competition, it's important that I surround myself with people who motivate me, but also people who understand just my little needs and things that make me feel relaxed. Whether that's just eating the same food we normally eat or stuff like that. Yeah,
just sort of creature comforts type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I understand what you mean. Do you ever sort of look at a competition, or do you get a roster? Do you know who's competing each time, or?
Well, when you're training, you get an idea.
Yeah.
But we sort of know it's quite a small community, so you're aware of who the top people are, and you kind of watch what they do.
Who do you think is the most formidable right now in women's and men's?
Formidable, kind of at the top of their game, or?
Yeah, sort of just, at the top of their game, or even at the top of the game, You are allowed to say yourself.
I like coming across as humble, but in the women's game, I like to think that I'm starting to open the barriers a bit.
Yeah.
I set the new women's record score in Nottingham, and I'm hoping that I can kind of make that transition from junior to senior and really help push the women's. But there are there's a few other women with me who are also doing the same. Yeah.
So how do you get to the top? What does the training and the diet and all the nutrition, what does it consist of?
A lot of time on the water. a fair bit of time in the gym.
Yeah.
But just really thinking about kayaking all the time. So even if you're at school and you can't train, I'm thinking about all tricks and just ways you can train and making yourself better. It's a job that comes home with you.
Yeah. Do you ever sit like in bed and just think about tricks like as you're going to sleep?
Yeah, and just sometimes it's nice to picture those kind of gold medal moments or the big trips away with your friends, and it motivates you to then go to sleep and get up in the morning. But yeah, a lot of visualization.
Yeah. So what does the sort of diet of a freestyle kayaker look like?
I don't think you have to be too strict. You obviously want to be fairly light in your boat and not carrying around too much extra weight. However, it's not one of those sports where you've got to meet a weight category. So you can, as long as you're fueling yourself well, lots of vegetables, protein, just the normal, avoid all the junk really, if possible.
Do you treat yourself sometimes though?
Oh, every day.
Every day, wow.
You've got to find the balance. If you're working out and maybe you're doing 2 to 3 physical sessions, one biscuit or a small treat isn't going to do you any harm.
Yeah. Is that how you sort of keep the balance? Because no one likes to just have to eat boring vegetables all the time, do they?
Yeah. I think for me, I worked out that if I take away the things I like and I say I can't have them, that annoys me. But if I choose not to have them, or I just choose to have less of something, then I'm making that decision to help my kayaking, and therefore it's a bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way of rationalising it for yourself. Do you think that, this is a completely different tangent, I'm really sorry, but do you think that in the future freestyle kayaking or other sports that are of the same sort of family of sports, do you think that they will be included in the Olympic Games? Or
there's been a massive shift in the Olympic sports recently with the addition of skateboarding, surfing. I think there's even been a kind of a freestyle dance category added. So I think maybe it's promising, but I'm not sure we need to be in the Olympics. The Olympics sounds great and it would be an awesome opportunity. However, it does also heavily restrict a sport, and I don't think you need your sport to be Olympics to really enjoy your sport and progress in it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that there are limitations that are brought about by not being in the Olympics, such as because a lot of sponsors maybe stray away from sports that are smaller, they don't have much of much traction, or people aren't sort of watching it as much? Do you think that limits yourself? Or
I think massively in the fact that there's no financial support for freestyle kayakers. All the lottery funding money gets ring-fenced into Olympic disciplines.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't get anything from my national governing body, and that makes it a lot harder. When you're still bringing the medals home, but you've got to find other ways to fund it, is quite a challenge.
Yeah, and that's sort of why the Olympic disciplines are beneficial to a lot of sports, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think that being in the Olympics would ruin it? Do you think it'd have a bad effect on it, or?
I think there's a mixture of feelings. Selfishly, I wish it was Olympics now, because if you're at the top, then it'd be amazing to go to the Olympics. Yeah. However, actually competing at the Olympics isn't a fair representation of the quality of athletes, because there's maybe one British athlete, one French athlete, whereas at the World Championships there could be 5, and those 5 could all actually be this very similar standard.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that are cut out, essentially.
I agree.
Which is a problem. I mean, because you don't want to leave your teammates behind. Is it a big team? Is it a very sort of intimate, small group of people?
So the British team is actually probably one of the biggest. We fill every spot. We have a good depth of paddlers. So we are quite big, and they're mostly based in Nottingham, or maybe the Thames Valley. So you have a couple little hubs within that.
Ah, right, okay. Where do you sort of do you all train communally, or is it in sort of dotted around Great Britain?
There's a mixture really. We quite a few paddlers are based up in North Wales or Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us live nowhere near Whitewater and we have to train at the weekends.
Does that sort of limit you at all, or?
I guess so. I spent a lot of my childhood in the car, driving across the country, which in hindsight it would be much easier if you lived a walking distance or a short car journey away from the place you were training. However, it was such an amazing treat every weekend to leave the homework behind and go and train that it meant I worked really hard at school during the week, and then my weekend I loved it and I worked hard at kayaking.
So that gave you a great work ethic then?
Yeah.
Definitely helps, I mean. What's your favourite moment? Like, looking back on it, you said that you really enjoyed the journeys in the car and training, but what is the, if you could pick one moment?
That's quite hard. I don't know. I've had some really good trips with a lot of friends, and then I also love competing and I love the buzz and how it feels after you've done well, and like the highs and lows is incredible. But to pick one special moment, I don't know if I can do that. There's too many.
Do you think that winning the World Championships the first time, was there a lot of pressure on you at that first World Championships, or was that your second time visiting?
So the first World Championships, I was the underdog, and I had to, in order to win, I had to beat the reigning world champion, who was the favourite, and she was a bit older than me, a bit stronger, and I sort of lacked confidence a bit until the final day, and things came together a bit more. And I think going from non-world champion to world champion is more special than continuing to become world champion.
Yeah.
So I think that's must be a very special moment, I think.
Yeah. Do you go on a podium after you win? How's it?
Yeah, so normally you get changed after your final, out of your kit, and then into your team uniform, and then the whole medal parade.
Oh wow. Is that very, exciting to because you're holding your medal? Is it sort of do you walk around, do you get on top of a bus or something? How does it work?
So you get on top of the podium, obviously, and that's just quite a magical moment where I think where you're allowed to relax and let it all be about you for a moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite nice, and you can look at all the people that have supported you who are there watching and maybe crying, and it's very special. And
that's what you do it for, though.
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, how many medals do you have?
I don't know. I don't know. I have I don't know. Quite a few.
Quite a few?
Yeah.
Dozen?
Oh, more. So I'd say I probably have about 10 highly ranked international ones.
Yeah.
And then lots from when I was younger and the youth tour and things like that.
Yeah.
But they all sort of mean the same to me because it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way of looking at it. Do you display them anymore, or?
I do actually. I do have a shelf with my trophies and my medals, and it's just in the corner of my room, and it's just there when you need it. Yeah.
That's the motivation you need, though, really, to continue getting medals and continue breaking down the boundaries or the barricades that are, that have been put up sort of through the years. Do you think that there's a lot of maybe mistreatment, because you said that a lot of the male athletes score a lot higher than the females? Do you think that a lot of that is down to sort of how people are trained? Because I think that a lot of female athletes can stand at the same level as their male counterparts.
I agree, yeah.
Do you think that this is just something that's happened because of a lack of training earlier on, sort of years and years ago, or how do you think this has come about?
I think it's a couple of things. I'm not going to deny that I think there is a natural strength difference, and maybe that aids the young teenage boys a bit more.
Yeah.
Just because they're able to force the tricks rather than having to really technically learn them.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. I think the major thing, at least within freestyle, is the mentality towards it. I spent a few years kind of being embarrassed to try the big tricks because I can't even explain why, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But now I see one of the best guys try really complicated combo, and I have the confidence to go in, and I probably might not do it, but just to give it a go. And I think you just got to try.
Yeah, definitely. How many runs do you get? Is it a sort of a one and done sort of thing, or do you get 3?
So each round, like prelims, quarterfinals, semi-finals, is a bit different on how it's how many runs you get and how the scores are calculated.
Yeah.
But generally, it's 3 rides, and the best one counts. Mostly, yeah.
So do you sort of go into it, maybe do the same tricks and then add another one, just see how many you can bang out in that little time slot that you've got, or what's the mentality towards it?
So you normally have like a set kind of ride plan, but that can change. Sometimes you might land in a position which means you'll do a different trick, and you've got to just be adaptable with that, and you might end up with a nightmare in one ride, so you might get down to 2 rides to win the world championships, but that's the fun in it, I think.
Yeah. What do you do? Like, what goes through your head when you sort of land maybe a bit awkwardly?
I think you just have to refocus and get on with it. There's no, like, literally in 45 seconds, you start dwelling, that's 45 seconds up, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So do you sort of apply that mentality to everything? Just to keep on going, be adaptable?
I think so, yeah. It's quite a good life lesson that things aren't always going to go your way, but you just kind of need to put on a straight face and get on with it sometimes.
Yeah.
And then reflect on it afterwards.
Yeah. What do you think is the most valuable thing that you've learnt from the experience of competing so much, etc.?
I think my most important message is you don't need to be the most talented at school in running or some other sport, or like any music or sports or arts. You don't need to be the top of your class or the best or naturally gifted to become the best. You can start from the bottom, and as long as you put the work in, you'll get to the top.
Can you tell me an example where you've sort of been given that motivation to put the work in and then done it afterwards and followed through and really felt that, proud of yourself for properly putting the hours in and getting something great out of it?
Well, there's several tricks where I know that I've struggled with them and I've had to put a lot of hours into them, and just going kayaking is really fun, but sometimes picking a specific trick is a bit hard sometimes, and you've got to concentrate. But like non-related to kayaking, I remember at school I was in the D team for rounders, and I was like, this is terrible. So I bought myself a rounders bat, and I spent ages with the dog in the garden just hitting that bat really hard. And then I got like promoted to A team captain, and I was like, wow, actually all you need to do is practice something. We're only bad at stuff because we haven't done enough of it.
And then that sort of brings it full circle, and you're captain of the A team rounders. Was that how long did it take you to get up to that point?
What, in rounders?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't think I'm very good at rounders, but it was just nice for me to actually. I've seen in quite a short time span that if you put the effort in, you progress. Yeah.
How do you think that the progression in freestyle kayaking works? Because I've seen a few people sort of explain progressing in other sports as it's like a staircase, where you experience a really hyper just sort of jump in your skills, and then you plateau a little bit, and it sort of goes up like that, and you continuously just go up and then just sort of stagnate and then just keep getting better like that? Or is it just like you get like the basics down, and then it's like the doors are open, you're free to just do anything, and it's just a constant?
I think it very much depends on the athlete. I think if you want it to be a constant, it definitely can be. You just got to put the time in. More realistically, you'll probably go up a bit and then maybe plateau slightly and then maybe go up. And that might just be because of life choices. During exams, you probably aren't kayaking as much. But if you kayaked every day for 4 years, like include making sure that you got enough rest, you're probably going to progress quite quickly.
So is that the hardest time that you've experienced is during exams?
I guess so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So far.
How do you balance everything, sort of like training, social life, school life, homework, exams, revision, just everything? How do you get it, down pat?
I think during exams, something's got to give normally. Like, during a competition stint, I probably thought about school less, and then when I was at school, make sure you think about school. But a lot of it's about the quality. At the weekend, if I got 2 days to train, making sure I made the most of those 2 days, and then my 5 days at school, making sure I listen to the teachers, I do my homework, I go to bed early, I don't mess around in the evening.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
So do you go to uni at all?
No, so I left school after my GCSEs and I started a professional apprenticeship as a surveyor.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years, got qualified, and now I'm sort of doing a bit of surveying, but mostly kind of thinking about kayaking.
Yeah.
And just seeing where I want my future to go, really.
Just progressing in your own sport, sort of in that lane.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that sort of maybe being in the Olympics that's the next step?
I guess so, but that's out of my control.
Yeah.
I think my goal is to grow my brand and maybe grow Freestyle Kayaking's brand. If we can get Freestyle Kayaking bigger, there'll be more companies interested, more money goes into the sport, the better the sport can progress, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that like the next step, sort of just to get the name out there?
I think so, yeah.
So how do you think you're going to do that?
I don't know. Got to create content. I think now it's all about social media, really. And you've got to create content that people enjoy watching. I have a lot of respect for Niall Wilson, the gymnast, because through YouTube, he made gymnastics really enjoyable to watch for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's like doing that, but you got to pick a sport.
Got to pick a sport and then just sort of go with it. Which is interesting. I think it's a good way of going about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel like if you were going to sort of like get, advertise the sport perhaps to someone, how would you pitch it? If you were going to do an elevator pitch right now,
yeah.
How would you pitch a sport in 60 seconds?
So it's a very dynamic, high energy, powerful sport. Like, how many people in this world can front flip, and then how many people in this world can front flip in kayaks on quite dangerous white water? It's
fairly minimal.
Yeah. So I think it's a very cool sport, and I'm obviously biased, but it's a lot more interesting than other sports. You just need to find the right audience.
Yeah. And so the point now is just getting the word out, and that's it, really.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an expensive sport to get into?
I'm not sure. I think, to be honest, as sports go, it's quite cheap. Obviously, equipment's expensive, but you buy it, you use it, you sell it. It's not like it's living or breathing, and I don't think it's actually that expensive a sport. Most people in it are pretty normal. There's no millionaires that I'm aware of who are kayakers.
It's not like Formula One or like anything like that.
Like, your parents don't have to be in a certain tax bracket to become a freestyle kayaker. Like, anyone could do it. It's just whether you enjoy it enough to push really hard for it.
Yeah. Do you think that it is all about that passion, or that that sort of like that fire that you've got to just continue and keep going? And do you think that beyond the world of freestyle kayaking, there's a lot that you could adapt the skills that you've learned in freestyle kayaking to then go into other different, sort of disciplines?
Yeah, I think so. So I think it is the fire and the passion that drives me to push really hard. But things I've learned, a bit like how none of us are actually born talented at something, and if you want it, you put the work in. Like, I can't sing, but I know that if I want to be able to sing, I could put the effort in. Or even I'm not very good at running, but if my heart really wanted to run a 5k really, really fast, you could do it.
Yeah, because it's all about the training and then putting the time in and hitting balls with a rounder's bat in your garden.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the sort of analogy that we're going to go with. Do you think that it is under advertised, or do you think that because I see a lot of whitewater kayaking just generally, like I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that a lot of different sort of disciplines within that same family of sports are promoted a lot more?
I guess so. So sprint and slalom are both Olympic sports. However, in the world of global sport, they're still relatively niche and quite small, and I guess they're also under advertised. I'm not sure. I guess it's a lot to do with the people who are advertising these sports. What do they find interesting? And if they don't know about these new sports or just these more exciting sports, then they're not going to ever become advertised, are they?
Yeah, and that's what you're striving towards, really, is to just get people into the world of it all. So if I were to sort of come in, I've got a kayak, where would I start?
So if you're based in the UK, I'd say, unless you happen to know or live with a kayaking coach, get yourself into a kayaking club or a canoe and kayak club. So in the UK, there's hundreds dotted around the country. Mostly in the winter, they'll have you in the swimming pool and teach you the basics, and then get you out on the flat water in the summer. And from there, you can try other disciplines, maybe sprint, slalom, freestyle, polo, and find something that you actually quite like, or do them all. It's up to you.
Do you think that you could sort of adapt your skills?
I think so. I like to think that if I suddenly had a change of heart and I really wanted to progress at slalom, I like to think that I could do okay to it if I put the time in. But for now, my heart just wants to kayak, so that's what I'm going to do. And I will freestyle kayak specifically.
And that's the way forward. Really. Is there anything that you live by, like sort of like a mantra or like a model? Like any motto, I guess.
Motto. I don't know really. I really love the fact that you don't need to be the best at something to become the best at it. I grew up thinking that I was not gifted at anything and therefore I couldn't be good at anything. But I just hadn't found the right sport. Once you've whether it's music, art, sports, or academic stuff, if you enjoy it, you're going to get good at it. So pick something you like.
And then stick with it.
Yeah, I think so. Because it'll be hard. It's not always easy, and sometimes your hands are frozen cold and the river's really smelly, but you just get on with it, and it makes the future a bit nicer.
Yeah, that's definitely the way you're going about it, I think. Well, so thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
That was the most in-depth talk I've ever been into about freestyle kayaking.
Oh.
To be quite honest.
Well, there you go.
It sounds quite interesting. A lunar flip. I'll remember that for like the next few months. When are you next competing?
It's a bit of an awkward one. I'm really not sure. The World Championships got cancelled, so we're hoping for the European Championships in Paris at the end of the year. But again, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's a waiting game, really, to see what happens.
Are there any smaller championships going on?
A lot of the smaller ones have also been cancelled, just because it's tricky, people travelling over, and I think at the moment encouraging people to cross borders isn't that great an idea. So I think we should all be respectful and just wait it out, and then it'll be easier in the future. So
if I were going to watch some freestyle kayaking, where could I find it?
So if you want to watch it on your phone, go to YouTube and type in freestyle kayaking. You could type in some like top names would be Dane Jackson, Claire O'Hara, James Bebbington. You could even type me in if you want, but my videos aren't quite at their level yet.
Right.
But Yeah, and if you want to actually come and watch freestyle kayaking live in the UK, come to the Nottingham 2022 World Championships.
Ah, okay, right. Well, I'll come and I'll watch that lunar flip.
Yeah.
I will remember that.
Yes.
So thank you for coming in and joining us on the Sports Champions podcast, and we will see everyone that's listening next time. Bye bye.